What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to work on basically building your first strategy. So from the poll in the Discord, you guys wanted more of how to build your first strategies and how to find profitable strategies. So in this video, we're going to do the first of those in building your first. So I do everything on NinjaTrader. So if you want to use NinjaTrader, and which is what I recommend for futures trading at least, you'll need to download it, open it, and then you'll have this control center. So to start coding, we're going to do new NinjaScript editor, and this will pop up. Now, here, this is Visual Studio, which is basically it's a C# language editor, which when you press it, you'll have to install it. It's free. When you press it, you have this, and then you have all your folders here with all your data, with all your files. You can just come to strategies and open a strategy. Now, I have an issue right now where, yeah, I just have an issue right now. I'm working on it with support, so I cannot use Visual Studio today. So we're going to use just an NinjaScript editor, which it's a little harder because it doesn't help you as much, but definitely just as possible. So first thing you want to do, you'll have strategies. These are all your existing strategies. If you haven't made one yet, you should have these, for example. So you can use those as examples. Also, if you are new to building strategies, what I really recommend is NinjaTrader support. Just if you just look in, well, yeah, you can just go to NinjaScript educational resources, reference samples, and then do strategies. Every single one of these is a strategy that you can download and then import. And each one is telling you what is inside that strategy, so you can kind of look at it and see how they do it. So, right, say you want to trade a crossover. This tells you everything that's going to be used in this strategy, and then here's the actual strategy with the code. So you can do, we'll go ahead and do it. Let's see. Um, let's use this one, right? So say you don't know how to use a time filter to limit your trading hours. You'll come to this strategy. You can, first of all, you can look at all of these, see if you can figure it out from there. Oops, what happened? If you can't, right, you can look at time. If you can't, you can download this. Now that we have it downloaded, make sure you know where you saved it. Then you come back here, you do tools, import, NinjaScript add-on. Now, there it is. Exact same one. We're going to do open. There you go. It just got imported. Now, we go back here, and now we have it. Sample time filter right here. Double click it, And now it tells us exactly how to do it, right? So checks if the time is during the busier hours. Only allow trading if current time is during the busy period. So what this is doing, right? You can see it's hour, minute, second, second. So if the time of the current bar, that's what time 0 is, then you're converting it to look like this, is greater than, so passes, this would be 9:30. So if we are past 9:30 and we have not passed 12, or we are past 2 p.m. and we have not passed 3:45, then we can enter a long position. So that's just one way. If you are confused on something or need help with something, you can find it. And like, if you needed to do this, all you would do is you could just copy it, right? Copy, paste it down here. Then you just change these numbers. So you want it to be, 7:25. So get rid of a 0. And that's basically how I built all of my first strategies. And you can do a lot with everything here. There's a lot that you can do. Basic has everything. Also, obviously, whenever you're confused using the NinjaTrader help guides, there's a lot on here. And if you are still confused after that, you can email NinjaTrader support, and they are usually pretty helpful. So now let's actually work on our first strategy. So to make your own strategy, we're going to do strategies, right click it, new strategy. We'll name it my first strat. Now, all of these will actually make it a little quicker. You don't have to change any code, but it's the same thing. So you can read what each of these these do on the documentation. But in this case, all we want is we want slippage of 2. I always do immediately submit synchronized accounts, and that's it. Now this is to add additional data. The strategy, we're not going to do that. That's a little more complex. And then you also have all of this, which we will not use any, because all of these make it much more confusing. And I only use on order update. Never use any of the others, and that's all I need. Now, input parameters, here is where you can put in the inputs that you want for your strategy. So first of all, you need to know what strategy you want to build. So for now, we'll just do contracts as an example. You can set what type of data it should be. A Boolean is true or false. Double, like basic decimal points. String is like words, text. Int is an integer, so a number, that's a whole number. Time, obviously time. And then brush is color. So our contracts, we want to be an integer, because we want 1 will be the default and a minimum of 1. Now let's also add, say, like we can do a start trading time. And to make it easier for us, let's add this so that they know the format it should be in. So default, yeah, it can be 1, that's fine. Minimum 1. Okay, so start trading time. It won't let us do that. So we'll just okay, so it all has to be one word, but we can change that later. Next, plots and lines. I've never really used that. I'm going to finish. And now we have the default code. But this is slightly different because we added a couple things, right? So you can see our slippage here is 2. Our start behavior is immediately submit synchronized accounts. We also have our properties, which are the input variables. So we have trading start time, which we set as a default of 1 and a minimum of 1 to the largest value. We also have our contracts default of 1. These are all the defaults. You know that because it's state.set defaults. And yeah, so now we have our parameters and our contracts. Now, the way NinjaScript works is basically your entire strategy is here. Now, the way it works is you have different states. So a state is basically, it can be there's state.terminated, that's when you shut off your strategy. There's state.data_loaded, that's when the data loads into the strategy. Actually, let's just look it up. State. On state change. So these are all states. You have state.defaults, which is this right here. It's where you set all the defaults. Then you have state.configure, state.active, state.data_loaded, state.historical, state.transition, state.realtime, and terminated. And yeah, all of those are very useful. And as a strategy, as you're running the strategy, it will run through most of these. And you'll probably need to understand how these work. So if you don't already, go ahead and come to here and read through all this, because it is important in understanding how your strategy will work. So now let's actually start. Well, that's okay, yeah. So that's explaining the states. So that is inside of this. These brackets are all of the states, right? Every time our state changes, we're going to run through this code. And so if you want to use other states, you come here and you do else if state equals state dot active, put the brackets. You can also do else if state equals state dot real time. And so when you change states and run through this code, right, first it'll check, okay, is the new state state.defaults? If it is, then it'll execute all this code. If it's not, then it'll keep going down. So then we have else if it's state.configure, then we go through whatever code is in here. If it's state.active, it'll go through whatever code is in here. If it's state.realtime, same thing, whatever code is in here. And so that is how you can control the life cycle of your strategy. Once you get more complex strategies, you'll understand how those work and when you'll need them. But for most basic strategies, you will not need them. Next important thing is now we have on-bar updates. So you can kind of tell what these are just by their names, right? On state change, when the state changes, then we run through this. Now we have on-bar update. When the bar updates, this changes. And we can set when the bar updates by when we calculate, right? Right now we calculate on bar close. So on every time the bar closes, we're going to run through our on bar update. Now we could change this to calculate on each tick. Now we're going to run through on bar update every single tick. So obviously that is going to run a lot faster, or not faster, but a lot more times. And you'll have to set up your strategy to handle that so that, right, it knows what it's doing. But for more simple strategies, Actually, we'll leave it on each tick. And then I'll show you guys how you can basically leave it as on each tick, but then change your code to work as an on-bar update. So, first thing that's always recommended by NinjaScript, and to avoid errors, is just if bars, if current bar is less than bars are required to trade, then we return. Okay, so what is this doing? We have two variables here, right? Bars required to trade is actually right here. That is set in the default. Right now it is set to 20. Then we have current bar. Now what is current bar? So current bar is once you have your data loaded, your strategy will start to run on historical data, right? So if I loaded my strategy on this chart right now, it's going to start running on this bar right here, on the first bar, and it's going to run through every single bar until we get to here. Then, like in the states, how we were saying, right? Once the strategy begins to process historical data, right? That's state.historical. So right when we turn on our strategy, after we go through the defaults and stuff, we'll start on state.historical. So your strategy will run instantly on all of this data in the state.historical state. Then we will get to state.transition once the strategy has finished processing historical data, but before it starts to process real-time data. So right as we finish all this historical data, right here, we go into state.transition. So there, if you need to do anything, you can do that in there. Then we go to state.realtime, which is now we're processing on real-time live data and executing live. And then that's the it of your lifecycle. Then once you turn it off, you can run through state.terminated. But so yeah, that's where current bar comes in. On state.historical, the current bar just keeps track of how many bars there are. So it can, yeah, just keep track of things. So your current bar here, current bar is 1 or 0. Then it's 1. Then it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to the current bar here. So, yeah, you know what? Let's actually write something real quick to better show that. So basically, what we want to do with our code here is we want to check if the current bar is less than bars required to trade. So that would mean if our current bar, right, say we are at candle 10, is less than our bars required to trade 20, right, then we don't want to do anything with our strategy because we don't have enough data. We need more than 10 bars to run our strategy. So the return, what return does is it just exits. Basically, right, on bar update, it's going to want to run this line, this line, this line, this line, this line, all the way down until we get this bracket. The return, basically we run this line up to here, but then we tell it return. And then everything below it, we don't run until the next on bar update. So let's print. Actually, we'll draw it. So draw dot text. Let's see. This, I don't expect you to understand this, but this is just to show you guys something. String will be current bar. String text is going to be uh, let's see. Wanted to draw 0 bars ago. Why gonna be close 0 plus 15. All right, let's see if this works. Also, when you're building your strategy, anytime you want to save it, these yellow means these are not saved. These are not saved changes. To save it, you need to come to here and compile. Then here, already we compiled. Now, hopefully this works. You're going to want to come to, you can do it on a chart, or you can also just go straight to your strategy section and load a strategy. If you want to watch your strategy, you need to load it on the chart. But if you want to save computer resources, you can just load it onto your strategy tab, and it won't show it on the chart. But you come to strategies, right click, strategies. Then we have our strategy right here. You'll do add. Right here we have our inputs, our data series. See, we have on each tick, we need submit. And then you'll want to enable it to turn it on. So, okay. What we'll need to do. Okay, so as you can see, right, our current bar is 366. I wanted it to display for every single bar. So let's change that real quick. This is a little more advanced, but might as well explain it to anyone who understands. Basically, when you're drawing something, the string, the text string, current bar, if you already drew it one time and you draw it again and they have the same string, it's just going to delete the old one and do the new one. So in some cases, that's very helpful, right? If you want to have a line here that moves, right? And if you want to change it, right, it's still the same line, but you want to move it. Instead of deleting the old one and moving and creating a new one, you just use the same string and it moves it. But in this case, where we want it for every single bar, it didn't do it. So this should fix it because we're going to be giving it a new string name for every single bar. So let's compile. And then to update it, we go to strategies, disable it. Oh shoot, not this one. Let's enable that. This one, disable this one. So you can see, right, got rid of our current bar, enable it, and there we go. Now, it's hard to read, but you can see, right, current bar 268, current bar 269, and it goes all the way, right? So every single bar is a different current bar, and that will help you a lot in your strategies. So Also, another thing to note is, right, in our code, we told the strategies if our current bar is less than bars required to trade, which in this case is 20, then we want to skip everything down here. So in our code, let's take a look. How can I? Right? Look at this. Current bar, first current bar is 20, which I believe is, looks like this one. Right? So every bar before this, we aren't running any of this code because it's less than our bars required to trade. Right? So we're basically waiting until we have enough data to then start trading. So hopefully that explains it well on what the current bar and what returning is. And yeah, why you want to do that. So we'll also, this is good to keep. Good to keep it in your code. So if you ever need it again, it's right there. And then you can easily track the current bars. Let's actually clean it up and just get rid of this text. And yeah, that's enough for now. Now, you aren't always going to want this, only when you need it. So when you don't want it, just comment it out just like that. 2 slashes, and now it won't run that code. Now, let's start with the actual strategy. So for our first strategy, let's keep it pretty simple. I'm guessing a lot of people are going to want technical analysis, like candlestick stuff, and indicators. So let's do a Bollinger Bands breakout. Yeah, I think that'll be good. So first we need to set up the Bollinger Bands. So coming up to here, right under your public class of the strategy name, everything in here is where you put your global variables. Now, global variable just means that it will save the data for that variable throughout all the rest of your code. So if we come to MA crossover, right? See, they put these variables. This is to save the data in these across the entire strategy. And actually, if you do forget how to add a strategy later, here's a perfect example, right? So first thing we need to do is declare our global variables, right? Only thing this does is basically telling our strategy that we want to save these. So we're going to do private Bollinger. Is that right? Yes, okay, it is. And this is the name of it. Now, let's go back to here, right? State.data loaded. So once our data is loaded, then we are going to actually create the data. So let's add else if state.data loaded equals state. Then we're going to load our Bollinger Bands with the data. So we'll do, so we're going to take the same name, right? Here you can tell these are SMAs, ours are Bollinger. We're going to take the same name and then what it is that you want, and then input, right? Here it says you input the period. That would be, 14, simple moving average, 28, 30, whatever period you want. So we need to mimic that here. So we're going to do Bull, which is our name of our Bollinger. And we're going to do Bollinger. And here you can see we need double number of standard deviation and the period. So standard deviation, pretty sure the standard is like 1.6 maybe. And the period, we'll do 14. Just something basic. Now, what here isn't shown, but that what we know from Bollinger Bands, right? Also, like documentation, is Bollinger Bands have an upper band and a lower band, right? So, here's similar to what we're doing. Let's see, we put a standard deviations, the period, but we can also do upper or lower, right? That's what these are. So we know for in some cases on indicators that have more than one, like more values, that is how you access it. So right now what we just did is we created the Bollinger Band indicator and inputted it with these parameters. Now, if you want it on the chart, you can do add chart indicator bull, and that's it. Now let's compile and see if that worked. So we're going to come back here, go to strategies, disable, and as you can see, right, even though we got rid of the code to print the current bars, it was still there because we still hadn't disabled and enabled it, but now it's not there. So now we turn it off, and there we go. Now we have our Bollinger Bands. So as you can see, we have our middle, upper, and our lower. So now we can use those to in our strategy however we want. Now let's change the color. So a lot of times what I do is I'll just copy stuff from other stuff, paste it. We only need one. We'll go ahead and comment it, and then we basically try and mimic it. So right, we're gonna do bool dot plots 0 dot brush equals brushes dot, let's do white. Now let's compile and make sure that works. Okay, look at that though. It only affected the top one. Now, so this also is a little bit more advanced, but I'm going to explain why. The Bollinger has, since we have 3 Bollinger Bands, it has 3 different, I don't want to say it wrong, but 3 different plots, basically. So whenever you see brackets like this, that means it's a list. So when it's 0, we're taking the first, right? Say we have a list of, 10, 35, red, white, apple. This is our list, which NinjaScript uses a lot. So say this list is called a plots list. If we do plots 0, we're taking the 0 value, which in C# is the first one, so we'd be getting 10. If we do 1, we'd be getting 25. If we do 2, we'd be getting red. So in this case, our plots 0 is the top line. So our plots 1 should be the middle line, I believe. Let's make that Peru. I don't even know what color that is. Then our plots 2, we will make white also. Alright. Then we'll do strategies. And there we go. Oh, Peru looks the same. So that is how each different plot can be edited. Now, one more thing to note. A very, 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 very common issue that you will run into with NinjaScript is this issue, where you will not have right? If this is your list, right, you have something in the 0 spot, in the 1, in the 2, and the 3 spot. But what if you try and get something in the 4 spot? Right? This will happen a lot once you start coding. You'll get this error a lot. And we're going to test it right here, right? Obviously, we only have 3 lines for the Bollinger. So what is this fourth thing going to give us? So let's see. Did you see that? We enabled it, we do apply, and we get nothing. It turns itself off. Now, if you want to see stuff, you can come to log, and look, there's our strategy, error calling on state change method indexes outside the bounds of the array. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that we're trying to access something outside of the list or the array. Lists and arrays are basically the same thing. So it just doesn't work. Now if we delete this, now we can come back to our chart and now it works again. So if you are getting that error, always keep in mind that it's from a list. You're trying to get data from a list, and that spot in the list doesn't exist. That's just a very common error that you'll run into. Okay, but let's get back to coding this. So now we have our Bollingers, and now they are filled with data, right? On data loaded, we're filling them with data. Now we can use them. So first thing we need to do when entering a strategy is you need to decide the signals that you want to give it. So basically, when something is true or when something is false, that is when it should enter. So in this case, we're going to do if close 0 is greater than bool 0 dot upper, is that right? Bool dot, okay, bool dot upper 0, and actually, yeah, let's do and okay, and then we'll also add in another indicator, but this one's going to be done differently. And RSI 1414 is greater than 65. Then, if both of those are true, then we run through what's in this code. So what are we doing? First, right, here's those brackets again. That is a list, right? Our close is the candle close. 0 is the most recent bar. So we're getting the close of the most recent bar, right? So say we have a bar, closes at 2000, price level 2000. So in this case, this is going to be equal to 2000. Now, we also have our Bollinger dot upper. So this is by default for Bollinger Bands. You have yours upper, and we're getting the upper value of the most recent bar also, and comparing these. So if the close is greater than the upper, then this portion will be true. Now, what is going on here? So similar to what we did here, but instead of giving it a name and doing all this extra stuff, right, giving it the global variable, we can just do it right here, which actually we need to add 0. So what this is doing is we're getting the RSI, the value of the RSI, of the 14-period RSI, the most recent value on the most recent candle. So this isn't going to plot it. It's not going to show you anything. You're not going to have any options. This is all in the background. So it can save you space and time, and yeah, basically makes it easier for you. Then we're going to check if it's greater than 65, then this portion will be true. Now if these are both true, they both have to be true, then we will execute this code in here, which we can do enter short. That will just enter us in a short position. Now let's also set a profit target calculation mode dot ticks, and we'll set it to 25 ticks. We also want to set a set stop loss calculation mode dot ticks 30, and then enter short. So now what we are doing is if both of these are true, then we start running through this code, which we're going to set up a profit target, set up a stop loss, and then enter short. Now NinjaTrader does a nice job of automatically setting up your stop loss, TP, and entering for you. So we're not actually setting an order with these. We're just setting up when we enter an order that it will automatically set the TP and stop loss at that level. So that's why you should always put your set stop loss and set profit target before you enter. That's something that took me a while to learn. But let's come back here and turn our strategy back on. Let's see what we get. All right, so there. Now we are taking trades. Now let's see if it's working how we would expect. All right, so our entry signals is close above and RSI greater than 65. Now we don't have the RSI chart here, but you can still load it up. We're going to smooth the 14. Now apply. All right, so let's see. RSI, yes, greater than 65. Greater than 65 when it's sold here. Then, right, none of these are true. This one looks like it is, but it didn't actually close above it. None of these, maybe that one. But I guess not, because if it did, it would have taken the trade. Then we come back, right, we have here. And the thing to keep in mind is when you're doing on bar close, right, close 0, the most recent bar is actually this bar. So when this closes, immediately we run through the code, and then on this bar, first, right when this bar opens, we're selling here. Same thing here, selling here, hit stop loss. And yeah, now we have a strategy. Who knows if it's good, but there it is. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is right now this is running on every single tick. So right now that's not big of a deal because in our chart, all this, right, this is all historical data. It's not running live. If we run it live, if we have this set to on every tick, it's going to be running through our code every single tick, which we don't want. So what we can do really easily is using the return again, if is first tick of bar, then we return. We actually want to do if it is not the first tick of the bar, then we return. So right on bar update, we get a new bar. It is the first tick of a bar, so we're going to continue and run through this code. If it's not the first tick of the bar, then we return and we'll never reach this code. Now, if you need to run any other calculations here on every tick, you can do that. So for example, a trailing stop loss or editing your position once you're up a certain amount of ticks if you don't want to wait for the bar to close. That's where you would do that here. So make sure you have that. Pretty important. Should have mentioned it earlier. But now let's also add our buy positions. So we can do else if flow 0 is less than bull dot lower and RSI 14 on the most recent is less than, let's make it 30. Change this to 70. Then we want to set profit. Actually, easier to just copy and paste. Copy that, paste. And see, we don't even have to change anything for this. We just change this to enter long. Now, say you don't want to come in here and change your actual code when you change your when you want to change your take profit and stop loss. So, oh, I completely forgot about the start trading time. We'll add that in a second. But so, right, you don't want to change your TP and stop loss every time. So we're going to copy this, paste it twice, and now we're going to create inputs for our TP and stop loss. So it's going to be TP in ticks, and it's going to be, we'll just set it to TP. Then we'll also have a stop loss in ticks. This will be SL. Now, we're going to come up to here to our defaults, and our TP default can be 30. Stop loss default can be, let's do 45. Now, we change these values for TP, stop loss, TP, and stop loss. Let's compile this, and now we can control our TP and stop loss from outside of the code. Alright, so we compiled strategies, enable, and now see, now we have these. So let's enable and then apply. So look, now our profit target is bigger, basically. Looks like this value is barely 70. And looks like if we would have had it set to 60, right, our RSI, we would have taken the trade here. Close above. But yeah. Let's see real quick. Not very good. Just, and the issue with these mean reversion strategies is, right, this. When it just keeps falling and taking a lot of losses. Same thing here. So, that's something to think about. Okay, now, let's go back. And yeah, basically that's our first working strategy. Now let's add a, actually, you know what, that's good. In the next video, we will add the start trading time, an end trading time, and then also a candlestick confirmation entry. So those two things will also help you understand how you can use candlestick data and how you can use time data when building your strategy. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you found it valuable at all, please like and subscribe. I'll make the next one on the part 2, and then I'll make a video on how to find profitable strategies, because that's really where it gets more difficult. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you found any value, please like and subscribe. Join the Discord. And that's it. Take care. Peace.